Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Of Mice and Men, set during the Great Depression, follows two displaced ranch workers, George Milton and Lenny Small, as they strive to make a living in California. George is intelligent and protective, while Lenny, though physically strong, has a mental disability and struggles to understand his strength and actions. They dream of owning their own land one day, but their plans are shattered by tragic events. Lenny accidentally kills Curly's wife, and as a result, George makes the heartbreaking decision to mercifully end Lenny's life, sparing him from the mob's vengeance and preserving his dignity in death. Let's deep dive into the book. George and Lenny's Dream. The novel opens with George Milton and Lenny Small traveling together, seeking work on ranches during the Great Depression. George is a quick-witted man who cares for Lenny, who has a mental disability but possesses great physical strength. They share a dream of owning a piece of land where they can be self-sufficient, raise animals, and escape the hardships of migrant labor. Lenny is particularly excited about tending rabbits on their future farm, which symbolizes their hope for a better life. This dream sustains them through their difficult journey, giving them a sense of purpose and belonging. Arrival at the ranch. George and Lenny arrive at a new ranch, hoping to earn enough money to realize their dream. They meet several characters, including the boss's aggressive son, Curly, and his flirtatious wife, who is never named in the novel. Curly immediately takes a dislike to Lenny because of his size, while Curly's wife flirts with the ranch workers, causing tension. The other ranch hands, including Slim and Carlson, are introduced as hardworking but lonely men, living a life of isolation. George warns Lenny to stay away from Curly and his wife, fearing that Lenny's strength and lack of control could lead to trouble. Curly's aggression. Curly's hostility towards Lenny intensifies as he constantly looks for opportunities to assert his dominance. In a key moment, Curly picks a fight with Lenny, who initially tries to avoid conflict. However, at George's command, Lenny fights back and crushes Curly's hand, revealing his immense strength. This incident establishes Lenny as both physically powerful and dangerous, despite his innocent intentions. Curly, humiliated, seeks revenge, but is told by Slim to keep quiet about the fight to preserve his pride. This confrontation foreshadows the violence to come and highlights the precarious position Lenny and George find themselves in on the ranch. Candy's hope. Candy, an aging ranch hand, overhears George and Lenny discussing their dream of owning land. He is desperate to escape the loneliness and insecurity of his life as a laborer, especially since he fears being discarded due to his age and disability. Candy offers to contribute his savings to help them buy the farm, believing it will provide him with a sense of security and companionship. George agrees, and for the first time, their dream seems within reach. Candy's hope adds another layer to the theme of isolation, as he too longs for a place where he can belong and be valued. Lenny and the puppies. Lenny, fascinated by soft things, becomes fixated on Slim's litter of puppies. Slim, the respected leader among the ranch workers, allows Lenny to take care of one of the pups, but warns him to be gentle. Lenny's inability to control his strength leads to tragedy when he accidentally kills the puppy by petting it too hard. This incident is a critical turning point, as it foreshadows the far greater tragedy that will soon unfold. Lenny's actions are not driven by malice, but by his childlike innocence and lack of understanding. His obsession with petting soft things ultimately proves fatal. Curly's wife's loneliness. Curly's wife, who is often dismissed and objectified by the men on the ranch, reveals her own deep sense of isolation. In a conversation with Lenny, she confides that she dreams of a better life, one where she could have become a movie star instead of being trapped in an unhappy marriage. She is lonely and frustrated by her lack of agency and freedom. In an attempt to connect with Lenny, she allows him to touch her soft hair, which leads to disastrous consequences when Lenny, frightened by her protests, accidentally breaks her neck in a panic. This marks the novel's tragic climax. Lenny's flight. After killing Curly's wife, Lenny flees to a spot by the river that George had designated as a safe place in case of trouble. As the ranch workers discover the dead body, Curly leads a vengeful mob to hunt Lenny down. George, knowing that Lenny will be captured and likely tortured by Curly and the others, faces an agonizing decision. The dream of owning land and living a peaceful life is shattered, and George must confront the grim reality of their situation. Lenny's flight symbolizes the collapse of their shared dream and the inevitability of violence in their world. George's heartbreaking decision. George finds Lenny hiding by the river and reassures him by recounting their dream of owning a farm, providing Lenny with a moment of peace and happiness. In a deeply emotional scene, George takes out a gun that he had secretly taken from Carlson earlier. Realizing that he cannot protect Lenny from the mob or from himself, George shoots Lenny in the back of the head, killing him instantly and sparing him from a brutal fate at the hands of Curly's posse. George's decision, though devastating, is an act of mercy and love, reflecting the harshness of the world they live in. Aftermath. In the aftermath of Lenny's death, the ranch workers, including Slim, come to understand the difficult choice George had to make. Slim, who has always been sympathetic to George and Lenny's situation, offers George comfort, recognizing the emotional toll of his decision. The other workers, however, remain largely indifferent, failing to grasp the depth of George's loss. The dream of owning land, which had sustained both George and Lenny, is now gone, leaving George to face an uncertain and lonely future. The novel ends on a somber note, highlighting the futility of dreams in a world defined by hardship and isolation. The end of the dream. With Lenny's death, George's hope for a better life is extinguished. The farm they dreamed of was never truly within reach, and its loss symbolizes the broader theme of shattered dreams throughout the novel. For George, Lenny represented both a source of responsibility and a connection to a shared vision of the future. Now that Lenny is gone, George is left alone, likely doomed to continue the same lonely, transient life as the other ranch workers. Steinbeck uses this ending to illustrate the harsh realities faced by those struggling to survive during the Great Depression, where dreams are often unattainable. Let's meet together the main characters of the book. George Milton is a small, sharp-witted man who travels with Lenny, taking on the role of protector and caretaker. Though George often expresses frustration with the burden of looking after Lenny, he is deeply loyal to his friend. George dreams of a better future for both of them, but he is ultimately forced to make a heartbreaking decision to kill Lenny out of mercy. George's character represents the theme of responsibility and the complexities of friendship, as he navigates the tension between caring for Lenny and facing the harsh realities of their situation. Lenny Small is a large, physically strong man with a mental disability. He has the mind of a child and often struggles to control his strength, leading to accidental harm. Lenny is gentle at heart, with a deep love for soft things and animals, but his inability to understand the consequences of his actions makes him dangerous. His dream of tending rabbits on the farm he and George hope to own reflects his innocent desires. Lenny's tragic flaw is his lack of control, and his unintentional actions ultimately lead to his downfall. Curly is the boss's son, a confrontational and aggressive character who constantly seeks to assert his dominance over others. He is particularly antagonistic toward Lenny, whom he perceives as a threat due to his size. Curly's insecurities drive his violent behavior, and he often takes out his frustrations on those weaker than himself, including his wife. Curly represents the dangers of unchecked power and the destructive effects of insecurity and aggression. Curly's wife is the only female character in the novel, and she is portrayed as a lonely, misunderstood figure. She is trapped in an unhappy marriage and spends much of her time seeking attention from the men on the ranch, leading to rumors and mistrust. Her dreams of becoming a movie star reflect her desire for escape and a better life. However, her loneliness and frustration make her vulnerable, and her interaction with Lenny leads to her tragic death. Candy is an aging ranch hand who fears becoming useless due to his age and physical disability. He offers his savings to George and Lenny in hopes of joining them in their dream of owning land, seeing it as his last chance for security and companionship. Candy's character highlights the themes of loneliness and the fear of being discarded by society once one is no longer useful. Crooks is the black stable hand who is isolated from the other ranch workers because of his race. He is cynical and bitter, having experienced a lifetime of discrimination and loneliness. Crooks yearns for companionship, but is resigned to his marginalized position on the ranch. His character underscores the novel's exploration of racial inequality and the deep loneliness that comes from being ostracized. Slim is a skilled mule driver and a respected figure on the ranch. He is calm, wise, and compassionate, often acting as a mediator and offering guidance to the other characters. Slim is one of the few characters who truly understands George and Lenny's bond, and he comforts George after Lenny's death. His character represents kindness and understanding in a harsh and unforgiving world. Let's explore together the main themes and concepts of the book. The American Dream. At the heart of Mice and Men is the theme of the American dream and its unattainability for marginalized people during the Great Depression. George and Lenny's dream of owning their own farm represents their hope for independence, security, and a better life. However, Steinbeck illustrates how this dream is elusive, particularly for the disenfranchised, like migrant workers and those living in poverty. Through the tragic fate of George and Lenny, the novel critiques the idealism of the American dream and suggests that, for many, it is an impossible goal, crushed by the harsh realities of economic and social hardship. Loneliness and isolation. Loneliness pervades the lives of the characters in Of Mice and Men. Each of the ranch workers lives a transient and isolated existence, moving from job to job without forming meaningful connections. George and Lenny's friendship stands out as an exception, yet even they are not immune to loneliness. Curly's wife, Crooks, and Candy are all figures who experience deep isolation. Curly's wife because of her gender, Crooks because of his race, and Candy because of his age and disability. Steinbeck uses these characters to highlight how societal structures contribute to isolation and how the lack of human connection can lead to despair. The nature of friendship. George and Lenny's relationship is central to the novel, and it serves as a rare example of companionship in a world where most characters are isolated and alienated. George looks after Lenny, and though their relationship is sometimes strained, there is an undeniable bond of loyalty and care between them. Steinbeck explores the complexities of friendship, particularly when one person holds power and responsibility over the other. George's ultimate act of killing Lenny is an expression of this bond, as he chooses to end Lenny's life mercifully rather than let him suffer at the hands of a vengeful mob. Power and powerlessness. The theme of power and powerlessness runs throughout the novel as characters grapple with their lack of control over their lives. Lenny, despite his physical strength, is mentally disabled and unable to protect himself from the consequences of his actions. Curly, on the other hand, wields power through aggression and fear, but he is also deeply insecure. Crooks, the black stable hand, is marginalized and isolated because of his race, and Curly's wife, the only woman on the ranch, is powerless because of her gender. Steinbeck uses these characters to demonstrate how different forms of powerlessness shape their lives and interactions. Dreams and reality. Steinbeck contrasts dreams with the harshness of reality throughout the novel. George, Lenny, and Candy's dream of owning a farm is a powerful motivator that helps them endure the difficulties of their lives. However, the dream is ultimately revealed to be unattainable, crushed by the violent reality of Lenny's actions and his tragic fate. Curly's wife also has dreams of a better life, wishing she had become a movie star, but she too is trapped in a harsh reality of unfulfilled potential and frustration. The novel suggests that while dreams can provide comfort, they are often fragile and vulnerable to destruction. Let's talk about the author. John Steinbeck, born in 1902, was an American author best known for his socially conscious works that depict the struggles of the working class during the Great Depression. His novels, including Of Mice and Men, The Grapes of Wrath, and East of Eden, often explore themes of poverty, displacement, and the American dream. Steinbeck's empathy for the plight of the marginalized, combined with his vivid portrayal of the California landscape, earned him critical acclaim. In 1962, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for his realistic and imaginative writings. Steinbeck passed away in 1968, leaving a legacy of literary achievement. Sincere thanks for watching. If you found this summary helpful, consider taking a moment to hit the subscribe button, like or share the video. If you have any feedbacks or book requests, make sure to leave a comment. Regardless, I wish you a great day.